in the South Orange Middle School Early Morning Chamber Orchestra. This evening, we will be playing Blackbird by Paul McCartney and John Legend. I will be speaking to you about the background of this song. It was written in response to all of the chaos after Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968. Many people believe that Paul McCartney wrote this song because he began looking deeper into the racism of the US. So after he started looking deeper and saw that there were many issues with civil rights in America, Paul McCartney said that Blackbird was symbolizing a black woman in Little Rock becoming a blackbird and served as a symbol of justice. In his house in Scotland, he was inspired to begin drafting the song Blackbird after the federal courts forced the racial desegregation of Arkansas's capital school system. Thank you. Now introducing Mr. Cook and Ms. Wilson.
Nice job.
Excellent job. Thank you. Excellent. We always record these. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll begin in approximately 3 minutes. Thank you. All right. Mr. Bonds, are we on the record? All right. Thank you and good evening, everybody. It is Monday, April 18th. It is 7:43 p.m. This meeting of the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education is being live streamed as well as recorded for storage and viewing on our district website. The public can participate during the hearings of individuals and delegates by signing up at the sheet up at the front door, or also signing up for a live audio public speaks using the BOE questions form on our website. Adequate written notice of this meeting of the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education has been sent to both townships and village clerks, the Star Ledger, the News Record, tapintosoba.net, and the Village Green. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Burnside, please note for the record that all board members indicated they would be in attendance this evening, and with that, can you please call the roll?
Board Member Susan Bergen.
Here.
Board President Thayer Joshua.
Here.
Board Member Alyssa Malaspina.
Here.
Student Representative Noah Morose.
Here.
Board Member Aaron Siders.
Here.
Board Member Cowie Tellisford,
Here.
Board Member Arun Vadlamani,
Here.
Board Member Caitlin Whitletter,
Here.
Board Member Corny Wingfield,
Here.
Board Member Johanna Wright.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to hold this meeting in a hybrid manner. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Whitletter. All in favor? It appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. All right, with that, I will now turn it over to Student Representative Noah Moros. Student Representative Noah Moros for the board recognitions for the month of April.
All right, so we're going to start out with our student recognitions. And the first one is district-wide. Several SOMSD students from the district submitted essays to the Essex County Education Association's essay contest, as 3 were selected as county winners for their grade level. They will be honored at an ECEA event at the Turtleback Zoo, tentatively scheduled for late June/early July 2022. The students are as follows: Jack Levitt, 2nd grader, Tuscan School, won 3rd place. Brandon Jones, CHS senior, won 3rd place. Arushi Vadlamani, CHS sophomore, won 3rd place. And Jonathan Cross, CHS freshman, won 1st place. Both Arushi and Jonathan responded to the prompt. Looking back, who in your school career has had the biggest impact on your life? Arushi wrote about her piano teacher, and Jonathan wrote about Marshall Elementary teacher and Someo VP Shara Lincoln. Jack drew a picture and responded, I look forward to going to school because... ... Congratulations to Jack, Arushi, and Jonathan. The next one is for Marshall Elementary School. Congratulations to Marshall Elementary School on their 2022 service project. Each year, Marshall focuses on various character education traits and discusses the importance of service to others. They typically have a school-wide service project each January for MLK Day. However, this year, they were unable to partner with the organization. Nonetheless, the project was not canceled. It was simply delayed. In March, Marshall Elementary School partnered with the local Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Maplewood to collect items to send to impacted families in Ukraine. Kindergarten collected new socks and blankets. 1st grade collected non-perishable food items that are light in weight and compact, and 2nd grade collected first aid supplies. Their collection was held from March 14th to April 1st. Families also had the opportunity to make a monetary donation if they chose. The service project was spearheaded by the teacher, Mr. Martinez's 2nd grade class. The next one is for the CHS Parnassian Society. Congratulations to CHS's Parnassian Society, whose December 2021 Equus production was named in several award categories by the Montclair State University Department of Theater and Dance for the 2022 Theater Night Awards. The Theater Night Awards recognizes excellence in the production of high school and middle school straight plays throughout New Jersey. Equus was nominated for Outstanding Achievement in the Sound Design, Outstanding Achievement in Direction of a Play, Outstanding Achievement by an Acting Ensemble, Outstanding Production of a Contemporary Dramatic Play, and Outstanding Performance by Actors/Actresses in a Contemporary Dramatic Play for Cyrus Shields, Dylan Boyd, and Rocky Anisette. The next one is for CHS student Zachary Hale. Zachary Hale, a junior at Columbia High School, was selected to participate in the Governor's School of Engineering and Technology summer program hosted by the Rutgers School of Engineering. Zachary's accomplishments and hard work distinguish him among a talented group of his peers. Zachary will be taking 4 academic classes, completing a research and/or design project in a group of peers from across the state. Congratulations to Zachary Hale. The last student recognition is for Seth Pierce. Seth Pierce, a senior at Columbia High School, was nominated by the New Jersey Music Educators Association for the All-State Band. Seth is among approximately 100 students and 15 arts leaders who received the prestigious New Jersey's Governor Award in Arts and Education for 2022. Congratulations to Seth Pierce. That's all for the student recognitions, and now on to our staff recognitions. The first one is for our assistant principals in our district. April 4th to 8th was Assistant Principals Week. The district and Board of Education, in gratitude, went to highlight the enormous contributions of our district APs to student success and well-being. We honor you for your daily dedication and thank you for the amazing work and support you provide year-round to students. Our first one is for Melissa Butler, 12th grade CHS Assistant Principal. The second one is for Terry Woolard, 11th grade CHS Assistant Principal. Charlene Hewitt, 10th grade CHS Assistant Principal. Tracy Morrison, 9th grade CHS Assistant Principal. Luis Brown, MMS Assistant Principal. Russell King, MMS Assistant Principal. James Jennings, SOMS Assistant Principal. James Waldron, SOMS Assistant Principal. Zoila Correa, Clinton Assistant Principal. Angel Rivera, Jefferson Assistant Principal. Laura Swabiris, Marshall Assistant Principal. Sheila Murphy, Seth Boyden Assistant Principal. Shane Ziegler, South Mountain Assistant Principal. And Brad Bertani, Tuscan Assistant Principal. The next one is titled National Library Week. April 3rd to 9th was National Library Week. The District and Board of Education want to acknowledge the awesome dedication and work of our school library media specialists across the district. We celebrate their daily contributions to our student and school community. The first one is for Suzanne Neeg, CHS, Jeffrey Cosgrave, CHS, Evelyn Deegan, Maplewood Middle, Lorza Taswell, South Orange Middle, Jennifer Latimer, Clinton Elementary, Shia Williams, Clinton, Tuscan, and South Mountain Elementary, Teresa Quick, Jefferson Elementary, Maria Daphne Kazanis, Marshall Elementary, Janine Gudia, Seth Boyden Elementary, Jacqueline Anderson, South Mountain Elementary, and Amy Pop of Tuscan Elementary. And that is it for the student and staff recognitions for April 2022.
Thank you, Noah. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the February 8th special meeting, the March 16th executive session and special meeting, as well as the March 21st executive session and special meeting, and the March 31st executive session. Oh, sorry, March 16th is executive session and regular meeting, March 21st executive session. Oh, no, I'm sorry. March 16th is the executive session and special meeting. March 21st is executive session and regular meeting. March 31st, executive session and special meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Valamani. All in favor? All right. Mr. Burnside appears to be unanimous. School board meeting is a business meeting in public and not a meeting with the public. Oftentimes, it may appear to members of our audience that the Board of Education takes action with very little comment and in many cases a unanimous vote. Before a matter is placed on the agenda at a public meeting, the administration has thoroughly reviewed the matter with the superintendent. If the superintendent is satisfied that the matter is ready to be presented to the board, it is referred to the appropriate board committee. The members of the board committee work with the administration and superintendent to ensure members fully understand the matter. After the committee discusses the matter, it is shared with other board members for consideration. And only then is it placed on the agenda for possible discussion and action at a board meeting. With that, I'll now turn it over to Dr. Taylor for the superintendent's update.
Before I begin, I ask that we pause and recognize the recent tragic loss of one of our Columbia High School students with a moment of silence and reflection. Thank you. We continue to send our prayers and support to the family, friends, and loved ones who are undoubtedly still coping with this unspeakable tragedy. Thank you to the members of our school community for taking time out of your evening to join us for our regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. A huge bravo to our student performers and their instructors for bringing pride and smiles to us all this evening. What a way to start a board meeting. We have missed this so much since the pandemic shutdown of March 2020. Some of you may not be aware that our board-approved budget for this current school year, 21-22, included funding for additional music teachers, specifically for the middle school level. This was in addition to the supplementary 5th grade music instruction provided last summer. Both of these efforts were put in place to support our students' social, emotional recovery from the instructional interruption created by the COVID-19 health crisis. while also recognizing that 5th and 6th grade can be linchpin years for childhood music discovery. At a recent Board of Education committee meeting, leaders of our arts department gave specific details and updates regarding the significant growth achieved via the aforementioned admin-recommended board investments. Kudos again to those amazing students and their supportive instructors and parents. If you missed that performance, it will be available on our website. Next, as we return from spring break, we again encourage our families and staff members to carefully review our recently released newsletters and updates sent over the last few weeks, which among other things include our recommendations regarding students who have returned to school from recent travel. Please also be aware that we were notified today that every county in our state now has shifted to a moderate CALI score from low recently. And CALI again stands for COVID-19 activity level. This trend is obviously concerning, and we are continuing to have conversations with our Health and Wellness Subcommittee, which includes our departments of health, to ensure we are reviewing and acting upon the latest data and guidance. Next, we are thrilled to share that our Board of Education's recently approved Intentional Integration Initiative Year 2 middle school placements have been finalized and distributed to the families of our rising 6th graders, the current 5th graders. Thank you to our central office team members, our middle school leaders, and the ALVS groups, our consultants, who contributed to this generational work. For those who may have missed our last board meeting's presentations on the Intentional Integration Initiative and also our district goals, they are available on our website. Specifically, the Intentional Integration slide deck includes brief summaries of previous presentations and board actions regarding this ongoing district goal. Our rising kindergarten families who completed their registration process will also be receiving placement letters soon, as well as information on upcoming kindergarten orientations. Our construction efforts are continuing to move forward. Our construction partners utilize spring break to complete very important work that we cannot pursue while students and staff are present. This work has a direct link to our summer construction projects, so it was vital that it was successfully completed during spring break. Thank you to Mr. Burnside in our business office, Mr. Giglio in our facilities department, as well as our school leaders and teachers for working together through temporary inconveniences for these much-needed health and safety improvements and exciting building expansions. For those who are interested, we have bi-weekly updates of all of our construction progress on our website under Long Range Facilities Plan. Lastly, as part of our ongoing social-emotional learning support plan, I'm very happy to announce that our middle schools and Columbia High School will be having their Challenge Day events during the first few weeks of May. Each school will have multiple days of targeted SEL, social-emotional learning engagement for hundreds of select students. I want to thank, I think I saw her here, Candace Davenport, and the Alliance from South Orange and Maplewood for contributing grant funds to these efforts as well. Those are all of my updates.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Now move on to the board president's update. Excuse me. The board reached, negotiations update. The board reached an agreement in principle with the South Orange Maplewood Education Association, aka SUMEA, on a new 3-year deal, which runs from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. I cannot comment on any other specifics at this time, as the contract has yet to be ratified by SUMEA and subsequently approved by the board. We anticipate ratification and approval sometime later this month. I'd like to thank the board's negotiations committee, as well as the administration for helping us work with, as well as our leaders from SUMEA for working together in good faith to construct the deal. The NJSBA has opened registration for this year's annual workshop, which will again be in person in Atlantic City. The last 2 years have been virtual due to the pandemic, and I personally am looking forward to attending in person for the first time. I encourage my colleagues I encourage all my board colleagues to attend if they're able to. Locally, we will continue with our NJSBA board training with our field service rep, Charlene Peterson, who will be at our May 16th meeting to provide training on the superintendent's evaluation tool. Just to reiterate one of Dr. Taylor's points, as we return from spring break, the board reminds families of the district's recent communications, specifically considering taking advantage of COVID-19 testing opportunities, including here at 525 Academy Street through MediMobile, which is Wednesdays and Saturdays. Since our last meeting, Dr. Taylor, Mr. Burnside, and the board's Municipal Partnerships Committee met with leaders in both towns and discussed ways the district can help support opportunities for swim access for district students. Those conversations are ongoing, and updates will continue to be provided as they're able to be provided. And lastly, please note Board Member Malaspina will not be participating in any discussion this evening on Policy 5124, Internal Student Transfers, which is on this evening's agenda for a first read. This policy is related to implementation of the district's integration plan, and the plan is noted in paragraph 4 of the settlement agreement and is therefore considered a matter related to the litigation. That concludes President's report. I'll now turn it over to Student Representative Noah Morris for the Student Representative report.
Thank you. This month, our school community and town community as a whole are mourning the passing of Columbia High School sophomore Cole Longworth. Cole was a high-achieving student and a friend to many who have been heavily impacted by his passing. I wanted to thank Ms. Balasone, our head of guidance, and Principal Sanchez of Columbia High School for their quick and compassionate response to student grieving. Having professional social workers come in, optimizing our guidance counselors, and even bringing therapy dogs and bunnies for our students to bond with. Vanessa and I have been working with Ms. Balasone to expand counseling resources and have a better outreach to students so they know that these resources are available. In our recent meeting with Ms. Balasone, Vanessa and I discussed what can be improved upon so Columbia can be better equipped to help students with their mental health. Ms. Balasone broke down the steps of counseling that are available to students needing assistance with their mental health. And Vanessa and I made strategies with her, such as social media outreach and email outreach to students so they know about these resources. While our guidance department is well equipped, the need for another social worker is something that was heavily expressed. Right now, we have social work interns and one social worker to help students deal with their mental health on a multi-week program. These programs have been fully booked all year. What students that need help with their mental health are being turned away from these services due to the lack of space? This is clearly an issue that should be addressed not only swiftly, but also completely. We need to continue to build on the mental health resources available to our students in not only Columbia, but around the district as a whole. This month, Vanessa and I plan on expanding our work with Ms. Balasone to our middle and elementary schools, collaborating with the guidance departments in each of these schools. Students at Columbia High School are beginning to become more chipper as the weather warms up, but have also been hard at work studying for upcoming AP exams. I wanted to extend an extra special thank you to teachers who have been hosting review sessions outside of school hours to ensure that their students achieve the highest score possible. The 2022 Shakespeare Festival team, spearheaded by Mr. McPherson and Dr. Bustrin, is also hard at work for the upcoming 20th anniversary of our Shakespeare Festival this week. The team has been hard at work making the writings of Shakespeare come to life around our school. The Elementors program has also started back up at Columbia High School, sending our high schoolers to our elementary schools to act as a mentor for younger students. I've been lucky enough to experience this firsthand, and the program is wonderful, and it really does its job at addressing its goal of connecting our older students with our younger students. I go once a week every Tuesday down to Clinton Elementary School, and kind of just talk to the students, play with them at recess, and kind of just answer their questions at the high school and stuff like that. So it really is a great program, and it's just come back after its 2-month hiatus, so it's doing a great job. But that is it for your April 2022 Student Representative Report. If you have any questions, please reach out to Vanessa and I via our board emails that can be found on the board members page of the SMSD website. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Representative Noah Morris. We are now at the first hearings of individuals and delegations, known as Public Speaks. as I wait for Mr. Burnside to bring me the list of signups. This is an opportunity for you to share your concerns about an agenda on the item on the agenda, but is not a time for dialogue with the board. The board requests that you state your name and town of your residence for the record. We will set the time limit to 3 minutes for each speaker, and we ask that you respect that time limit. We must cut you off so it does not appear as if we're giving anyone an advantage to share their views over another individual. Speakers have the full protection of free speech during public speaks. However, this forum does not protect you from the subject of your free speech pursuing libel or slander charges. Finally, the board recommends that all members of our community follow the chain of command. Our first in-person public speaks is from Talia Rothenberg. Please. Sorry.
Do I bend this? Let me know when I should start.
Yep, go ahead. You got it.
Everyone in Maplewood has heard about the Seth Boyden teacher who was accused of, quote, unquote, ripping off a child's hijab. The rush to judgment was in biblical proportions. Immediately, the Board of Ed posted information about Islamophobia, as if this was Miss Herman's position. Ibtihaj Muhammad posted Miss Herman's name and picture. Some rabbis and others in the town wrote and posted about their outrage, as if this was the truth. Tragically, Miss Herman was accused of Islamophobia instead of what it really was, a caring teacher who wanted everyone in her classroom, regardless of race or religion, to be learning, including a child who had something that was covering her eyes. Miss Herman's reputation, livelihood, and life as she knew it were forever dismantled and destroyed. She and her children's lives were threatened, and she is literally afraid to walk into our towns of Maplewood and South Orange. Well, today, I want everyone to listen very carefully. The Board of Ed may know this, but not our community. On January 28th, the mother who originally accused Miss Herman of such a heinous act knocked on Miss Herman's door, and she apologized. She apologized as she said the following: "This is just a total misunderstanding. My daughter loves you. She misses you. She talks about you all the time." To this, Miss Herman replied, "And I love your daughter too." She later acknowledged that in the conversation that her daughter makes things up. This is the truth, and yet the injustice is undeniable. It is time now to make Miss Herman whole. Tamar Herman gave over 20 years of continued commitment to Seth Boyden School. I am demanding, many of us are demanding, that you publicly apologize and clear Miss Herman's name, that you take care of her for the injustice that you help perpetuate. Do right by Miss Herman. No teacher should ever have to endure death threats, living in limbo, and being excommunicated from her community for trying to help a child learn. I urge others who are as outraged as I am to speak up on Tamar Herman's behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public speaks is from Mercer Barton Griffin.
Just tell me when I should start.
Go right ahead.
Hello, board members and superintendent. I am Mercer Barton Griffin. I'm from Seth Boyden Elementary and next year will be an MMS. I'm a gender-neutral 10-year-old with a problem. During the school day, I have nowhere to go to the bathroom. Surveys show that 41% of non-binary and gender non-conforming people feel emotionally uncomfortable on campuses without having easy access to a gender-neutral bathroom. We could either expand on the schools or change an extra bathroom sign to fix this problem. I hope we're all on the same page here. School is supposed to be a safe, accepting place, and for most part, that's true for me. However, for a good portion of people who aren't cisgender, long story short, people who feel comfortable with their birth gender, it's kind of like a seesaw. For instance, all the people I know who are out to their parents were out at school first. Same with me. But for me and some of my friends, it feels a little forced to go into a bathroom that isn't ours. Seth Boyden was built a long time ago. It's not exactly like they understood this way back when. However, that doesn't mean we can't change now. A Cambridge University study shows that 59% of trans/non-binary/gender non-conforming people don't feel comfortable using restrooms outside their home. 24% have been asked if they were in the right bathroom. 9% have been denied bathroom usage. 12% had been verbally/physically/sexually abused. The New York School Board has mandated gender-neutral bathrooms in all public schools. They're one of the first school systems to do so, but they shouldn't be the last. Let's mandate gender-neutral bathrooms in all South Orange Maplewood schools.
Thank you very much, Mercer. Our next in-person public speaks is from David Wise.
Thank you. I live at 615 Summit Avenue in Maplewood with my wife, Deborah Chudnow, and I'm submitting this statement on behalf of both of us, again, in the Tamar Herman matter. Dear Dr. Taylor and board members, having lived a proud and happy Jewish life in Maplewood for over 30 years, we are imploring the Soma Board and District immediately, that the Soma Board and District immediately act to cleanse the stain of anti-Semitism tainting our community as a direct result of the district and board's actions and inactions in the Tamar Herman matter. We will not reiterate the points raised in our letter to the district and board in November 2021, or the one we signed together with over 200 other members of our community in February 2022, alerting the board and district to the well-documented anti-Semitism of Ms. Herman's accuser. Suffice to say, in our eyes and in the eyes of much of the Jewish community, the district and board have for over 6 months inexcusably treated the implausible anti-Semitic ravings of Ms. Herman's accuser as presumptively true, and Ms. Herman's entirely plausible and now so well proven protestations of innocence as presumptively false, all the while not giving Ms. Herman even the barest semblance of a fair and transparent process in which to establish the truth. The district and board appear to have blinded themselves both to the true facts of the hijab incident and the anti-Semitic underpinnings of the accusations against Ms. Herman, and to have stopped their ears to the well-founded concerns of the Soma Jewish community. It is not, however, too late to begin the healing process, and we appeal to the board and district to do so promptly. Number one, by reinstating Ms. Herman. Number two, by giving Ms. Herman and her attorneys a fair opportunity to confront Ms. Herman's accuser. And three, conducting a thorough and candid internal investigation in partnership with the Soma Jewish community into the district's own handling of the Tamar Herman episode, including the extent to which it has been willing to consider and give proper weight to the well-documented anti-Semitism lying at the heart of the accusations against Ms. Herman. Thank you.
All right, we will now transition to the WebEx Public Speaks. And our first WebEx Public Speaks is from Sue Ellen Levovey, Maplewood.
Hi, my name is Sue Ellen Levovey. I have lived in Maplewood for 49 and a half years, and I would like to add my agreement to what Talia Rothenberg and David Wise have said. I would like to request that the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education address a fair and speedy resolution of the matter concerning Tamar Herman's position as teacher in the Seth Boyden Elementary School. I have known Tamar for nearly 40 years. She has been a dedicated, respected, and a loved teacher in the school district for decades, and a teacher who loves her students and deserves no less than to have this matter resolved speedily and equitably. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next WebEx Public Speaks is from Erin Corpus of South Orange.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Erin, good evening. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, Erin Corpus from South Orange. I have 3 children in the district, 11, Janie's at Jefferson, 8, Gwen is at Marshall, and 3, Travis is at Montrose. And I'm speaking in regards to the pre-K mask mandate. Most of these children are pandemic babies, so none of their life has been normal up until now. And on this call, I've heard a lot of talk about social emotional learning and mental health. Pre-K is social emotional learning. And it is extremely difficult for these children to interact on a daily basis when they have half of their faces covered. My son was sent home and told that he wasn't allowed to return to school until he had a negative COVID test because he was sweaty and had a raspy voice. No fever, nothing. He was overdressed and was sweaty. And I know that there are other stories like that out there. The speech and developmental delays, we know that we're about 2 years behind, and other preschools in our district have lifted the mandate. This should be the choice of a parent. Those who want their children to wear masks have that option. We don't have an option, and it should not be the school district's choice right now to keep our little ones masked. When my girls came home from the first day of school without wearing a mask, the first day that they were able to take it off, they were like completely different children. They were so happy. The joy I saw on their faces, the smiles, they couldn't stop talking about their day. And I pick up my son who is so frustrated every single day. This isn't about saving lives anymore. We know so much more about this COVID, and it's time for us to move forward for our little ones. We have no idea what kind of social, emotional, and mental toll this is taking on them. And to not put them, the children first, just does not seem just to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next, actually, he's here, so we'll go back to in person for William Cook of South Orange.
All right, thank you very much. My name is William Cook. I also go by Bill. I've been teaching in the district for about 24 years, almost all in the middle schools, teaching orchestra. I'm writing to you with respect to the proposed outsourcing of our district's transportation operation. I urge you to retain our transportation department as is and not to outsource it. I don't know whether this topic is covered in the budget for next year that you discussed earlier, but I'll proceed as if it remains unresolved. On numerous occasions, I've heard our SOMSD community referred to as a family. Now in my 24th year of service in our district, I can relate well to this sentiment. I count many people in this district as close friends and indeed as my family away from home. I've taught some of your children and folks here in the room. It's distressing that our district's leadership is contemplating cutting out a part of our family. I often think of Joseph Oji. If you don't remember, he was the bus driver who was one of the first members of our SOMSD community to contract COVID-19. He was driving our district buses right up until March 13th, 2020, the last day we had in-person instruction back in 2020. On or around April 21st of that same year, not long after our district suspended in-person instruction, Joseph died of his illness. I'm sure you all remember that. Now this district is contemplating eliminating the position formerly held by Joseph and presently held by his beloved coworkers. To eliminate the transportation positions would be an awful slap in the face to Joseph's family and to his coworkers, and would send a horrible message about how little this district's leadership values our transportation employees, their families, and Joseph's memory. If you proceed with this plan and eliminate these positions, any future references to the SOMSD family will ring awfully hollow. Please retain our transportation workers as valued parts of our family. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our first public speaks. Dr. Sutherland, care to respond?
Thank you again to everyone who took time to give us your views and concerns and opinions in public speaks. For those who don't normally attend these meetings, our team and I, we take copious notes to investigate what the concerns are, and if at all possible, we try to give feedback right here on the spot, even though we're not required to for public speaks. Regarding those who brought concerns around the Seth Boyden matter, what I can say is that we cannot comment on personnel matters. Legally, those are confidential matters. It protects the employee. It's very strict and stern when it comes to us discussing an employee positively or negatively. But trust that your concerns have been noted. Your letters that you've sent have also been shared with our Board of Education upon receipt. But again, this is a legal matter and an investigative matter. And when it comes to us trying to bring resolution, we're using all steps possible to make that happen. And that's probably all that I could say about that, because it is a confidential matter involving an employee. I think we lost our student who brought such thoughtful comments around gender-neutral bathrooms. I will definitely investigate this with our facilities department and our construction partners, as we are doing heavy construction throughout our school district. I know that many of our schools do have gender-neutral bathrooms, but I'd like to confirm that for the Board of Education and confirm plans to expand that opportunity for those students. Regarding the pre-K mask mandate, I did in my opening comments, I spoke about our meetings with our health and wellness subcommittee that include our departments of health. And recently we have had multiple meetings about this topic. And like many other districts, we're not yet at a point where we feel as though we can move to a mask optional setting for students who do not yet have access to vaccinations for COVID-19. But these conversations will continue, as they are in many other areas in our state and in our vicinity. Last but not least, thank you, Mr. Cook, for bringing those thoughtful comments regarding your colleagues. They are indeed noted. That concludes my responses.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. We'll now move on to committee reports. We will start on the screen with Board Member Bergen for policy, and then we will come around the horn with Board Member Winkfield with personnel, and then Board Member Valamani for finance.
Thank you. The policy committee met on April 4th for almost 2 hours. Board President Joshua filled in for Board Member Malaspina at that meeting. Tonight, we're voting on 7 policies. The first, 1648.11, road forward. We haven't made changes since first read. We added guidance from local health departments to the definition of order, and also added local health departments to the list of parties the superintendent will consult as appropriate. We changed if appropriate to as appropriate, but didn't remove it so that the superintendent has the flexibility to act quickly. And the revised policy states that the superintendent shall revise health and safety protocols as necessary and appropriate to align with revised orders. The next one is 2480 alternative education. At the recommendation of the C&I committee, the policy is being abolished tonight. It is not a mandatory policy. We also have 2 policies on the use of school facilities, 7510 use of school facilities and 7540 joint use of school facilities. Since last month, we made some minor changes to 7510 to permit the district to withdraw permission to use facilities at its discretion, in addition to the reasons listed in the policy. And we also modified the optional language from Strauss Esme so the district may approve use of school facilities by commercial or profit-making organizations or for private use, but may not permit use for political activities. 9560 administration of school surveys addresses when the district must get parental consent to survey students. And we have 8 policies for first read tonight. 2415.05 student surveys, analysis, and or evaluations. This policy requires consent from parents, guardians, and emancipated students for the student to participate in surveys, testing, and evaluations from programs funded by the U.S. Department of Education. It also gives parents and guardians and emancipated minors the right to inspect instructional materials and review surveys. And it prohibits students from being required to disclose certain information, such as religious and political affiliation, mental health, sexual behavior, illegal behavior, and income. We also have 2431.4 prevention and treatment of sports-related concussion and head injuries. This policy requires the district to adopt an athletic head injury safety training program and distribute information on head injuries to parents. Student athletes who are suspected of having a head injury are removed from the competition or practice and can't participate until medically cleared. The district must also share this policy with all youth sports team organizations that use school facilities. And this is also a Strauss Esme update. 3134 is assignment of additional duties. It addresses when the superintendent may assign additional duties to teaching staff members, and it's being updated based on Strauss Esme revisions. 5124, internal student transfers, is being updated to reflect our growing integration program. It's also being corrected regarding how students who move within SOMA may stay at their current school by requesting a transfer so they are not reassigned. 5541 anti-hazing is a new mandatory policy regarding hazing that was discussed at the special C&I committee meeting. The policy committee selected the option that this policy applies to all schools in the district rather than only to the secondary schools. 8830 patriotic observances. FFT and the policy committee are proposing to abolish this outdated policy. Strauss Esme and nearby districts don't have this policy, and it doesn't reflect current state holidays. It would require staff to raise and lower flags on holidays when the district is closed and staff aren't on school grounds if it had been implemented. And the district does raise and lower flags according to a schedule set by the state and the county, and that won't change when this policy is abolished. 8465 bias crimes and bias related acts is a mandatory policy being revised to reflect updates from Strauss Esme. It defines biased crime and bias-based act. Both biased crimes and bias-based acts must be reported to the superintendent and then local law enforcement, and the district must preserve evidence such as graffiti pending the arrival of law enforcement. 9713 recruitment by special interests. This policy addresses recruiting of high school students by military recruiters, institutions of higher education, and prospective employers. Parents or guardians have the ability to opt their students out of recruiting. The district is required to give military the same access to students as it gives to institutions of higher education. And those are all the policies for tonight.
Thank you, Board Member Bergen. Any questions for Board Member Bergen on policy? All right, thank you. Oh, sorry, Board Member Wingfield.
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, Board Member Malaspina. You're frozen, it looks like.
Oh, no, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here. Am I unfrozen now? Was it me, or do you want Courtney to go first?
It actually might have been me, so go ahead. I apologize for that.
Okay, I'm
I now have to turn around so I can see you, but go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I guess my question is, I know that this was something that we had discussed, but I haven't gotten an answer yet to the idea of 9120, which is 30, which is the public policy, the public complaints one that we passed in March. Can you give us an update on the regulations, especially since there has been some chatter within the community concerning some of the issues related to book challenges?
The regulations are not something that the policy committee handles, so I will defer to Dr. Taylor on that.
I just, yeah, because, well, it's in the policy committee that it should be on the website, so I guess I was just trying to see when that was going to be done.
Dr. Chill just returned, so I'll give him a quick briefing.
Okay.
Question is about, you got it? All right.
Yeah, so we shared the recommended regulations with the CNI team, and they had no objections and are just doing a few edits on it. And once that is complete, we will include it in our regulations guide. We've also developed a regulation document to keep up with all the regulations that need to be updated as policies are being updated. So it shouldn't be more than a few weeks before that's updated.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure it got on the website just because, so we were enforcing our policy. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Board Member Wingfield and Personnel.
All right, good evening. The Personnel Committee met Thursday, April 7th for 1 hour. We reviewed item 4282A through K on tonight's agenda. There was a review of the appointments and separations, 3 retirements, 2 resignations, and 5 leaves of absence. There was a review of appointments, salary adjustments, and stipend positions. In old business, we discussed the school and community safety director position that has now been reposted with the talent recruiting firm HYA. We will follow up next month to inquire about potential candidate submissions and next steps. Our committee charge is in its revised draft form and will be ready for the exec committee to review in the next week or so. We discussed policy 3134, assignment of additional duties. The policy was reviewed by our legal team, the district's legal team, and there was no conflicting information, so we're able to proceed. In new business, we discussed the following. Ms. Bedeen shared details around recent employee action in order to prevent disruption of services. Substitute services have been secured to provide appropriate additional coverage, and she assured us that she assured the committee rather that student safety is the top priority. We discussed recruitment procedures. Ms. Robinson shared details concerning recruitment efforts underway as it is recruitment season. The HR staff and school administrators are presently attending job fairs. There are 10 scheduled upcoming job fairs where teams of the admin staff of the district will be present. The main focus for hiring and the main need is in the area of special education. Ms. Robinson is also connecting with educational partners and their student teachers and interns as a method of recruiting teachers. Committee members, we requested a list of school affiliations. We also, Ms. Robinson is connecting with HBCUs around the region. She plans to continue working with HBCUs to establish relationships in preparation for next year's recruitment efforts. The committees did suggest reaching out to colleagues in neighboring communities, connecting with other district teachers that are in good standing for recommendations of potential colleagues they could bring to the district, as well as publishing and sharing, once ratified, updated salary guides with out-of-district colleagues. There was a brief discussion about potential barriers of attracting new teachers, in particular the cost of living in our communities. Further collaborative efforts with some creative thought partners and developers can lead potentially to maybe some affordable housing options in our community in partnership with the two towns. The conversation concluded with a reminder that it is, that we make our best effort to attain outstanding educators first and foremost, and also must align with our hiring goals in pursuit of a diverse workforce. We briefly discussed exit interview reporting, and in particular, we were excited to see from Ms. Robinson a exciting new dashboard summary of exit interviews that they've received thus far. The new summary view that she shared with the committee provided actionable data and insights around recent exits. A copy of the summary will be provided to all of us on the committee for a closer review and further discussion. Finally, we briefly discussed the status on teacher evaluations. Ms. Robinson provided a broad overview of the current status, assured us that by and large, the district was on track to meet all of those goals by the deadline, but that there was a special attention being paid to the Special Services Department, which required some additional support, but would in fact meet the goal. And that concludes our April update.
Thank you. Any questions for personnel? All right, thank you, Board Member Wingfield. We'll now move on to Board Member Valimani for Finance.
Thank you. The FFT committee met on April 14th for almost 2 hours. And as always, we had a pretty lively discussion and also a full agenda. So the first thing we started off was with tech updates by Mr. Bonds. We are implementing a two-factor authentication, and this is going to be implemented by Cisco Duo system. And just to clarify that this is all for staff only and not for students. We're also doing, there's also going to be a fiber upgrade happening because the existing fiber is like more than 15 years old. So, and the good thing about, at least in that thing, is that we have the E-rate Fed program, which is going to pick up about 40% of the cost for the fiber upgrade. The next item we spoke about was on the card access system. The current system is extremely old and it needs to be replaced. But the good thing is that with the new system that's coming in, we will also be able to accommodate all students having cards. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen, in the next month, but the plan is to have phase 1A is to have for staff, make sure that all the wiring is done and abatement is done. And in that same phase will also be for students. And hopefully this will be ready by end of summer. And phase 2, which is actually quite exciting, is to actually link up the card swipe access systems directly to Power School. So this will help in automating attendance and, are people present and so on. The next we had a presentation by Scott Downey. He's one of the architects who helps our school district look at various things. And we looked at a presentation made for the CHS pool. So there were two parts to the whole thing. One was the discussion on and a presentation on the student commons. And the student commons was very exciting to see that there was an alumni wall, there was an expanded guidance area, the flexible small space gatherings, and a really large room, and it can be repurposed to be, anything over time. I mean, right now we're looking at expanding the guidance department, but there's nothing stopping us from having a STEM lab or a media lab out there. It's approximately 10,000 square feet. And the current cost is going to be about $3.5 million, which is part of the budget and long-range facilities plan. Next, we talked about the pool. This was obviously a presentation by the architects, and they talked the pool would have to be rebuilt. So this is including the entire structure, I forget the technical terms there, but also the new venting system would have to be put in, a new HVAC system, new lockers and bathrooms. And the approximate cost there will be about $8 million. And We asked a bunch of questions about would there be double counting of charges because you are anyway reusing the space, and these are exclusive numbers. And a couple of things that we would have to do if we do go down the path of the pool is to have a completely new evaluation by Department of Education and the Board of Estimates. The board members spent time discussing on various alternatives, and we plan to reach out from the FFT team to the rest of the board to inform them on what's happening. Moving on, next we had the budget update by Mr. Burnside. The budget has been approved by the county superintendent. It's going to be advertised on 4/21 as required, statutory requirements. And before the public vote, there'll also be a user-friendly budget that will be published on the district website. I would encourage everyone to go take a look at that because at least to me, that's a very useful, easy to understand document. Mr. Burnside also shared his calendar showing all the meetings held to come up with the budget, because there were some questions about what was the process done to come up with the budget. And I can tell you that, I mean, it was pretty thorough, and all, I guess, I don't know if it's only superintendents or more were involved, was all done properly. Then we had the facilities update by Mr. Giglio, stormwater runoff issues in South Mountain and Seth Boyden. There's a lot of drainage issues out there which has to be addressed. And the only thing to be seen out here is that this is going to be part of coming out from the capital reserve fund, because this is current account and we have to pay for that, but which is fine. That's what it's for. Another thing that is maybe of use for the community is that there's going to be an intersection improvement program done by the county, and this is starting next year. So we have a lot of time to look for that. And they're going to redo the payments all the way from 3rd Street out to Milburn Avenue. So that's one. We spoke about boilers in the central office. And finally, we had the transportation update where, we discussed about transportation issues, and everyone was present except Board Member Wright, who, was conflicted and could not be present. That concludes the FFT meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Board Member Valimani? Board Member Telford.
For the common space or the pool, are we going to have a discussion on that with the architects, or is that going to stay exclusively with the FFT?
Yes. So the plan is that now that the FFT committee has seen it and looked at it and discussed amongst us, the next step is going to involve the entire board and have the same presentation for the entire board and have the architect available to answer questions. But hopefully between now and then, we'll be able to informally kind of, get some information out. So at least you're prepared with all the questions that you may be.
Right. And I guess if we have questions now, can we submit them to you now, or should we wait for that next meeting?
No. I think it makes sense to share as much information as we can right now, because given that what we know, I mean, there's happy to share.
Right.
And we anticipate that happening later this year. So everyone will be aware of that before the agenda setting, just so. Sorry, there's a hand on my screen, but I don't know if the Board Member Malspina, there's a hand discrepancy. Do you have your hand up?
I do have my hand up.
Okay,
I'm trying to get an understanding of, was there a vote taken in committee about the pool, or was there not?
There was a discussion in the committee about what should we do next, and I think the discussion was about having the full board at Mr. Downey's, that's his name, right? Mr. Downey's suggestion, along with Mr. Burnside, to present that presentation to the full board, along with questions, and the opportunity, as Mr. Board Member Valimani said, to answer some questions along the way of giving that presentation. So that's what happened.
And also just to clarify, I mean, we wouldn't be taking votes because the entire board will have to vote on it. So we just discussed it, and we'll bring up the same presentation and the discussion to everyone else on the board.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for Board Member Valimani? All right, seeing none, that concludes the discussion portion of the meeting. We'll now move on to the action portion of the meeting. Based on the superintendent's recommendations, I'd like to move the following resolutions for discussion. And that's, I'm sorry, that was committee reports. We're now moving to discussion. Apologies. That's resolutions 4282 to 4293, with the exception of 4285G. And then with respect to resolution 4289, we have a recommended removal from the report, and that is case number 228526. So again, moving for discussion, resolutions 4282 to 4293, with the exception of 4285G. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Winkfield. All in favor? Appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. We're now in discussion for the before mentioned items. Any discussion on any of those? Seeing none, we'll close discussion. Mr. Burnside, can you please call the roll on items 4282 to 4293, the exception of 4285G? Oh, sorry, wait. Hold that back.
Sorry.
Board Member Whitletter has a question.
I just wanted to know if we could sever 4285R.
Okay. All right, Board Member, I'm sorry, no. Why am I wishing that upon you? Ms. Butler, 4285R. So can I just take that vote separately? Since I've moved everything but 4285G, can I take the votes for everything and then just do 4285R and then come back to G? All right, okay. So I'd like to recall my motion to move everything, to move 4282 to 4293, with the exception of 4285G to discussion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Whitletter. All in favor? All right, that appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. All right, I'll now like to make a motion to move to discussion items 4282 to 4293, with the exceptions of 4285G and 4285R. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Whitletter. All in favor? All right, we're now in discussion for those items. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question on 4285R. Are we
We're
allowed?
not, Board Member Malaspina, we're not discussing that right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the one we're not.
Everything else but that.
Okay,
And
so
4285G. All right, seeing none, close discussion. Mr. Burnside, can you please call the roll on resolutions 4282 to 4293, with the exceptions of 4285G and 4285R?
Board Member Bergen,
Yes.
Board President Joshua,
Yes.
Board Member Malaspina,
yes.
Board Member Siders,
Yes.
Board Member Tellisford,
Yes.
Board Member Vadlamani,
Yes.
Board Member Wingfield,
Yes.
Board Member Whitletter,
Yes.
Board Member Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I'd now like to move to discussion items 4285G and 4285R. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Whitletter. All in favor? All right, that appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. We're now in discussions for 4285G and 4285R. Let's go with 4285R first. Any discussion?
Yeah. Are we allowed to vote on it, Ms. Wright and I? Or is that, are we not conflicted? I don't know.
No, yes, 4285R is the Sussex Co-op, which yes, you can vote on it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Now let's move on to 4285. Seeing none on that, we'll close discussion on that. Move on to 4285G. Any discussion on 4285G? All right, seeing none, we'll close discussion on that. Mr. Brightside, can you please call the roll on 4285G in reverse order?
Board Member Wright? Says no camera connected.
Board Member Wright, are you there? If you are, you're muted. All right. Board Member Wright?
Sorry, I lost my whole page. Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Whitletter?
Yes.
Board Member Wakefield?
Yes.
Board Member Vodlamani?
Yes.
Board Member Telesford?
Yes.
Board Member Siders?
Yes.
Board Member Malaspina?
No, I'm abstaining.
Board President Joshua?
Yes.
Board Member Bergen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Can you now please call the roll on 4285R?
Board Member Bergen?
Yes.
Board President Joshua?
Yes.
Board Member Malaspina?
No.
Board Member Siders?
Yes.
Board Member Telesford?
Yes.
Board Member Vodlamani?
Yes.
Board Member Wingfield?
Yes.
Board Member Whitletter?
No.
Board Member Wright?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the action portion of the meeting. We'll now move on to our second public speaks. We're now at the time for hearings of individuals and delegates, known as public speaks. This is an opportunity for you to share your concerns about an item on the agenda, but it's not a time for a dialogue with the board. The board requests that you state your name and town of your residence for the record. We will set the time limit to 3 minutes and request that you respect that time limit. So we must cut you off so it does not appear as if we are giving anyone an advantage to share their views over another individual. Speakers have the full protection of free speech during public speaks. However, this forum does not protect you from the subject of your free speech pursuing libel or slander charges. Finally, the board recommends that all members of our community pursue the chain of command. I don't see any public speaks in the room. I'm going to now switch over to the spreadsheet. And Mr. Bonds, I don't see any new signups. Just want to make sure that's correct. All right, that concludes our second public speaks. We now move on to new business. Does anybody have any new business this evening?
I do.
Board Member Malaspina.
I have 2 items for new business. One, the resolution 4215, the moratorium on suspension, had certain milestones and methods of implementation listed in it, including 2 climate surveys given to our 612 students and a report with survey results and recommendations given to the board, quote, no later than March 31st, and a presentation given to the public that was supposed to occur at tonight's meeting. I'm trying to figure out how things are going since the board has not gotten that status report, nor was there a presentation done tonight.
Sorry. Is the next, why don't we just tie this one up
You-
first and then we'll go to the next one.
That's what I figured.
Thank you for that question. What I shared with our Safety and Security Committee and what we shared with the board in your most recent Friday packets were notes from our task force meetings. We also shared in those notes that instead of us creating our own in-house surveys, we are going with a state survey platform that was launched with Rutgers University. that is going to be, we shared a few of those updates with the board as well. Is our plan to have this completed for you by the next board meeting. We're also going to include in that report the information that we've discussed around a summation of code reds and code yellows, as well as other security and disciplinary information and trends.
Thank you. So that means that I must have missed that in the packet. Does that mean that then there were not 2 surveys given? One in the fall and one in the spring, like it said? What's going to happen?
I'm sorry, I'm losing the last part of what you're saying.
I said, I thank you. I must have missed that in the packet, but does that mean that there were not 2 surveys given, like was said that was going to happen in the suspension moratorium? One was in the early fall, or late fall, early winter, and one was in the spring?
That is correct. With us doing the surveys for the equal opportunity schools and other surveys around masking, we didn't want this important message to be lost. And so we're going with a already recognized partner that we're doing through, again, the partnership with Rutgers University. We put those notes in a few of your Friday packets, and also shared a few documents from that new platform that just launched, I believe, about 2.5 weeks ago. And we have a representative that is assigned to our school district that's already partnering with Principal Sanchez, Ms. Bodine, and myself, as well as others on our task force.
Thank you. Board Member Wright.
Dr. Taylor, what's the cost for the Rutgers participation?
Board Member Wright, it's my favorite cost. Can you guess what my favorite cost is?
It must be free.
Yes, you got it. You got it. That's my favorite cost. So yeah, it's gratis, and it's part of a pilot that they're doing, and we'll be one of the first districts in the state to participate.
So I'm just a little confused because I know that survey through Rutgers. We've done stuff like that before here in our district. Is this a brand new survey? Because we've done climate and culture surveys through them in the past.
Yes, it's the latest. I don't want to speak without having my notes in front of me, but this is more than a survey. This is a dashboard platform, and that's the information that I put in your previous Friday packets, some snippets from that tool, and we'll be sure to share more information on it during our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business this evening?
Yes, I did have another item. I'm hoping we can. Sorry.
Just want to acknowledge you. Go ahead, Board Member Malaspina.
Thanks. I'm hoping we can work towards finding a better method of how board members get their questions answered. At first, we were told to ask the executive committee, and only certain BOE members, including myself, use that method to do things, with the results being that many times the questions weren't answered. Recently, Thayer said that to go through a committee chairperson to get questions answered, which I did, and almost all my questions were not addressed somewhere in the committee meetings, including items related to security and mental health. So I'm trying to understand not only how the committee chair people are prioritizing what items make it and whose questions we choose to answer, but I also think we as a BOE need to come up with a better system on how we can make sure all BOE members get their questions answered in a timely manner, and all have access to the same information. I'd love it if we could spend a few minutes talking about that now. Has anyone experienced similar issues with understanding the process and getting questions and comments answered?
Thank you for that. Let's let, I see Board Member Wright has her hand up, so let's let her chime in.
That's my question and comment.
Thank you. Board Member Wright, I presume you're chiming in on this as well and not a third new business item? Board Member Wright? You're muted.
I'm sorry. I have experience. Didn't have my hand up for that, but since I've been called upon, I have experienced some of those same kinds of things, waiting to get things answered and never, always waiting for the next one. There has to be a better way that we communicate because we're still in silos.
Thank you for that. Any other comments on this one before I offer to respond? Board Member Whitletter.
I think that there are ways we can always improve communication, and like new business is supposed to be an opportunity for us to deliberate together and talk about certain things and hopefully build consensus, because I know data request was something that as an individual, if you make a request, it's one person. But if it's something that the majority of us would like to see, then there needs to be action on that. So I guess I'd like to see new business become more interactive, where we can have two-way dialogue about opportunities and challenges that we are experiencing.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Board Member Valamani.
I can speak to the FFT committee. I mean, I reached out individually to, well, maybe not individually, collectively to the board for any questions. And when they were asked, we prioritized them based on time. I mean, at some point, we only have so many hours to spend on meetings, so they get moved to the next one. And obviously, if the questions you ask are getting pushed back by 5 meetings, that is a problem. But I think you should be patient enough to have one meeting go through and then raise complaints if they have not been addressed. So I would, again, I'm not sure about your experience with other committees. I mean, I can't speak to that. But I can tell you that with FFT, every one of them is logged. And you will see there's a timestamp, there's a time against it, and it'll tell you that, oh, it's been deferred to the next one. And then let's talk after the next one.
Thank you for that, Board Member Valamani. Any others? All right, thanks. I would just, I guess I would like to ask the board to continue to follow the established protocols, which are to go through the committee chair if you know which committee it would fall under, or if you're unsure or you don't know, or it may not fall under any committee, to send it to the executive committee. We can then determine if there is a committee for it. If not, maybe there should be an ad hoc for it, or we can just go directly to Dr. Taylor. One of the things I heard as part of the comment is the idea that a request from one person is not a request from the board. And I just want to reiterate that to all of my colleagues. A request from the board is a request from the board. And, we always hear examples when we go to NJSBA trainings that 2 people ask the superintendent for 2 entirely different things. Neither one of them are on our annual agenda or necessarily related to district goals. We're pulling the administration in out in different directions. Our job is to ensure that the district is being run well without trying to run the district. So I ask all of us to ensure that our questions are on the well-run side versus the running the district side, and then also ask all of us to ensure that we are trying to work, questions that are directly or tangentially related to district goals should always get prioritized over others that may not necessarily be or could be part of future goals. And I think that's what our upcoming retreats will be about, the idea of putting together. Then we've had some folks have had discussions about topics that are not necessarily part of this year's goals, but they would like to see addressed under next year's goals. And I think those upcoming retreats are opportunities to have further discussions in a collaborative way. I'm going to go to board member, if there's no one else who hasn't spoken, I'm going to go to board member Malaspina since she spoke first, and I'll come to you, board member Whitletter. All right, go ahead, board member Malaspina.
I mean, I think the question is more of, we don't know because there is no way of knowing who has done questions, who has put together questions, because we haven't been having these discussions. Like board member Whitletter mentioned, to know if there are consensus on certain questions. It all goes to one person or one committee. We don't know if their questions are being asked. Like, I might have the same question as another board member. And so it might rise to the occasion where it should be discussed, but we don't know that because it's all siloed in between everything and nobody's, there's no real discussion with that. So that's why I have brought this up is to try for us to find a way to know sort of what we want to have these discussions with, to use maybe, as board member Whitletter said, new business in a different way so we can have more of these discussions. But as for prioritizing questions, I'm concerned that it's left up to the committee chair to make that decision as to prioritizing more than not. And some things are concerning to me, like some, decisions that are being made in terms of what we, one person thinks might be more important than other things.
I guess I would just say, one, I think that the prioritization is based on the district goals, and I don't think that's a decision that's left up to an individual committee chair. We have the district goals, everyone has access to them.
So
we know what they are. I'm still talking, please. And then the second piece is I would caution everyone against using the word silos. It has a very negative connotation. What you're calling silos, I call committees, and that's what they're called for our board. We have 4 committees: personnel, finance, facilities, technology, C&I, and policy. In addition to that, we have some ad hoc committees: municipal partnerships, negotiations, safety and security. They're not silos, they're committees where board members get together and discuss topics that are relevant to those committees that help advance the board's and district's agenda. That's not a silo. Board Member Whitletter.
I think one thing that I always err on the side of too much communication is probably better than not communicating at all. And we signed a code of conduct whereby it's expected that we're responding to one another within 72 hours. And I have found, especially when it's specific emails to committee chairs, that sometimes those emails go unacknowledged. And I privately acknowledged committee chair Telesford, but I wanted to publicly acknowledge, as the committee chair for safety and security, he's been very responsive just to say, here's what, I'm bringing this here, and we discussed it, and here's action plan. And it just makes you feel like you're being heard and your concerns or, ideas for opportunities are being heard as well. And I would just like to see all of us just have the respect to respond to emails, and especially when it's part of what our policy on how we interact. We should be doing that in a timely manner.
I agree with that, Board Member Whitletter. Thank you for that. One thing I know that Board Member Bergen is spearheading is the standing committee chair meeting, and I know that's one of the items for discussion is how to foster better communication between the committees as well as the board. I understand that meeting is scheduled to happen in the next week or so, and the board members will be updated on the results of that. So thank you for that.
See, this is why I love new business, because I didn't know anything about that. So this is why having these discussions like we are good to have. So, because that wasn't even addressed with us, that we've been thinking of having a standing committee, or at least I didn't know about it. So, I would like us to see us continue these dialogues like this.
Board Member, I apologize. Board Member Malaspina, Board Member Bergen, I believe it's happening. Is it happening this Sunday or next Sunday? I don't remember.
This weekend, yes.
All right, so because you didn't know doesn't mean you weren't going to know. There's still 6 days between now and then where someone could have raised the idea that the meeting was happening and asked opportunities for questions. For instance, one of the points you raised at a recent meeting was that you don't know that not everyone knows on every committee's meeting. And so I took that, and it was a fair point. I took that and I put aside, I gave everyone the April calendar as I knew it, and asked for those where they had not been set in stone yet to then update the board when that happens. I will do the same thing for May. I try to get through this meeting first before we start looking at May committee meetings and other meetings. So I'll do the same thing then, and I'll continue that going forward. There's an opportunity for everyone to know when folks are meeting and get and opportunities for discussion.
And I've thanked you for that. And I was not meaning that in any other way, that other than this is why I think we should have these continued discussions in this type of manner, so that we can, in new business, really discuss things and have a discussion as to what we need to move forward on and make sure we're all on the same page.
Thank you. Any other new business this evening? Seeing none, I'd like to close new business and make the following motions. The Board of Education will meet in public session Thursday, April 28th at 6:30 p.m. using an online video conference platform for a budget hearing. Immediately following the public session, the Board of Education will meet in closed session to discuss personnel, legal, negotiations, and other matters to be announced at a later date. The Board of Education will meet in closed session Monday, May 9th at 6 p.m. in the Superintendent's office, 525 Academy Street, Maplewood, as well as using an online video conference platform to discuss personnel, legal issues, negotiations, and other matters. Immediately following the closed session, the Board of Education will meet in public session at 7:30 p.m. for organizational staff renewal meeting in the district meeting room, 525 Academy Street here in Maplewood, in person, as well as using an online video conference platform, which will include hearings of individuals and delegates. The community can view the meeting by following the steps which will be listed on the agenda. The Board of Education will meet in closed session Monday, May 16th at 6:30 p.m. in the Superintendent's office, 525 Academy Street in Maplewood, as well as using the online video conference platform to discuss personnel, legal issues, negotiations, other matters to be announced at a later date. Immediately following the closed session, Board of Education will meet in public session at 7:30 p.m. here in the district meeting room, 525 Academy Street, Maplewood, as well as using the online video conference platform. Action will be taken. May I have a second? What? Yes. It's going to be 6 p.m.
6 p.m. for what? I'm sorry.
The
We
May
couldn't
9th
hear.
executive session, closed session.
Thank you. It was hard to hear.
All right. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Whitlander. All in favor? All right, that appears to be unanimous. Mr. Burnside, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at Monday, April 18th. Monday, still. April 18th at 9:11 p.m. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Whitlander. All in favor? Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe. Good night.